man, you can go anywhere in the world to get a couple of lies, but you come right here to get the truth. The truth. Tell them that we coming. Just tell them that we coming. Lock it in. Lock the door.
Because the game is going to send you a bill. Peace to the gods and the earth. The whistle has been blown. Definitely back again with another hot one on the Truce podcast. I'm one of three hosts, Malik Spellman. Got my partner, Daoud Sherrill, here as always. Mel couldn't make it. He had to go check on his yacht in Ferrari prices.
Mel sick. The postman is sick.
So
postman is sick.
Get well soon, postman.
Get well
we'll send
soon,
you
Big Mel. Love you, my nigga.
Yeah, we'll send you a get well soon card. And today we got a hot show for you. Might have to get the fire department out here because we're going to really delve into some interesting topics. The matrix of power, religion, and city officials and their bloodlines. You know what I'm saying? We're going to talk about Scamala. What's her name? Scamala.
We're going to talk about everything.
Everybody.
We ain't going to single her out because we don't want people to think about it.
But right now she's trending.
Stepping down.
So therefore we have to bring a lot of conversation to Miss Kamala Harris. I would call her sister.
But still to me, fuck fake news. All right?
Okay, I can respect that.
You got that from the Truce.
I respect that. Well, guess who we got today, though, for the Truce show?
Ooh, man.
We got Maxwell Jordan's bloodline. For those of y'all that don't know who Maxwell Jordan is, that's the brother that was the king of debunking conspiracy theories, and he wrote several books, one being The Matrix of Power, and the other one being about some of the institutional activity that takes place in secret societies or the secret societies that's in these institutions. Without any further ado, let's bring on Brother Brian, the heir to the throne of Maxwell Jordan.
Big B!
B! What's up with you, baby?
How you doing, man?
Happy to be here.
Last time I seen you, man, it's like you had the weight of the earth on you, man. You looking good, bro. You looking good. Whatever you're doing, repeat it. Repeat it. You know,
still not done it. Not out of the clear, but I'm almost there.
Yeah, you're looking good. It's working. I can tell you that. Just keep up the good work. But sometimes people get healthy, then they go revert back to their old ways. And we had that with a few of our friends. We have another world-renowned doctor, we call him Dr. Sebi, who came out, who had a wonderful post.
God bless Dr. Sebi, baby.
God bless him. And I met him in 1991 over the radio because I grew up in Watts, grew up in the Jordan Down Housing Project development, which was a part of World War II and military production. And down there, a lot of our soil was contaminated from our water, from the soil, from everything. It's in the news right now.
That's what I was going to tell you. That's the new current conversation.
That's the new current conversation.
About the contamination of the water. And then we had this conversation on a prior podcast about how that particular thing is affecting our people. Not to mention, when we were growing up, they had an issue with paint chips.
Paint chips. Well, that's what they were saying. It was the dust from the paint chips.
Okay.
Yeah, they said the paint chip with the lead, and when we opened up our windows back in the days, everything looked like candy to us, and we were so hungry because we was poor. We used to bite the paint chips, and sometimes it tastes good, man.
That wasn't my generation, but
yours too, huh?
Yeah. No, I think I was right.
Well, our generation got that in the government cheese, but literally for the listening audience, some of the things that we're discussing with you may be retro, but it's going on today, and it's the truth, man. We literally was eating hot sauce sandwiches, paint chips, lead. We was taking mercury out of thermometers.
Let me get back to it because they don't tell you the effects of it. Let me tell you the effects of it. When I used to go to high school and junior high school, you used to have to study to pass the exam and the tests. I used to have issues studying, not because I didn't want to, because I used to get headaches, and this frustrated me, and I was wondering what was going on with me, and I didn't want everybody was scared of the doctors, and we were scared of shots when we was growing up. So
definitely.
Nobody would never want to go to the doctor in the ghettos because they scared of shots and they scared of the history of the doctor. So a lot of them, it's like a taboo. But you have to get yourself checked out when you feel like your body experiences something that's unnormal to yourself. And it was unnormal for me. And so I grew up with that. And it's like I said, it came a situation where I found other methods, ways of getting my work done. You know what I'm saying? So I was able still to achieve and get my diploma. But still I was troubled by this thing that I had that I kept a secret as far as in the way it would allow me to concentrate. And so I used to seek out for help and look for certain things, and that allowed me to stumble across this whole thing about lead in the projects and the power and how it has a negative adverse effect to the human body, and it's harmful. And so I, was seeking out practitioners to help me without going to medicine, because I started studying medicine and how they made from 4 different poisons they made 44,000 different drugs. This is something that was taught to us by Dr. Sebi, and it was something also reiterated when I was growing up under the Nation of Islam, when we was being taught how to eat to live. And so a lot of the stuff used to play back to me. So when I met Dr. Sebi, I started utilizing his compounds and stuff like that to rid myself from all these bacterias and
that was
leads and all that. That was way back in 1991. This was in '91 when I was introduced to his products, and he, just like a lot of us, come up off under the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on how to eat to live. And so he just took it a little further, and that's what left I end up losing her life out there in this island out there. What was it, in Puerto Rico or something? Honduras.
Yeah, she went on a 40-day, 40-night no eating thing with Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi was a very close friend of ours personally, and we stayed up with him up until he left here and went to his home native town of Honduras country and passed away. But Dr. Sebi was very instrumental in enlightening the people about the proper way of eating, alongside with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with How to Eat to Live, which was a book. But that's a great segue again into you being here today.
Because you look good. The reason why I was saying all that is that whatever regiment you on, keep it up.
So
when I seen you, I felt the pressure just looking at you, and I said, you got a lot of things then when you was communicating about what you was going through, and I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Malik's, helped me along that journey too with great advice and certain things, and it's just, it's insane, all the different phases and this specialist and that doctor and this protocol and that thing, and I get better here, a little worse here, and then I got to deal with this thing, and it's been a nightmare. But thank God, I think I got a good team around me now to help, so happy about that.
Well, let me ask you a question, if you don't mind, and I'm quite sure Doe will have a lot of questions as well. We're glad to have you here, of course.
Thank you.
The Matrix of Power, written by Maxwell Jordan. Explain to me what your grandfather meant by that, and he included religion, health, food, USDA, Food and Drug Administration, FDA. Explain to them, what was it like growing up underneath him, getting the tutelage of Maxwell, and tell the listening audience a little bit about him that don't know. That is, this new generation may not be familiar with him, but he has debunked many of conspiracies, and he sat down with some of the same secret society families that we know about today and talked to them personally. Give us a little insight on that.
Yeah, I always say, people ask me that a lot too, like, what's your favorite thing about Jordan? What's your most memorable moment? And I would just say, living with him, it amazed me that every single day that I talked to him, he would teach me something new. And like, I'm talking sometimes 10, 20 times a day, and he just talks for hours and hours and hours, and you're just like, where does this come from? After 5, 10 years of this, you're just like, and then everybody's still surprised, and I still would hear 20 years later something new that I never heard before. And so there's so much there to go through, so it's kind of hard to start somewhere. But yeah, just being able to understand, because like where I grew up, I seen a lot of corruption on like a local level with police, and my family, they were involved in a lot of legal stuff too, and I grew up with a lot of it around me, and so I seen it firsthand on a small scale, on a local level. And then when I got introduced, to kind of Jordan's work as I got older, then I started to see, oh, this is a major problem all over the world. Like, this is not just in the hoods and in with low income people that are there trying to commit crimes and stuff. Like, this happens on every level of society, and even worse and more in a lot of cases, demonic and spiritual stuff happening with the Vatican and the royal families, and it just goes on and on. But yeah, it is a major mess in which most people can't, or have a hard time really wrapping their minds around. So after going through like those crash courses on all those subjects, I try to kind of boil it back down over the last few years to simple things for us to like learn how to get along and assert our sovereignty, because that's the most important thing. I was listening to one of your guys' podcasts last time, and you talked about how a lot of our leaders don't represent us anymore, and just all the corruption and how bad it is. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to gain that sovereignty back without having to go through the traditional methods of politicians, like write your congressman or go do a march or do this or do that. And then you find out like you can't vote federally things in. right? So you can do things on a local level through 10th Amendment states' rights, and a lot of this kind of UCC commerce stuff that we were talking about before, and how to represent yourself properly and engage. So there's all these tools and things we could talk about later, but that's probably the most exciting thing to me, is getting involved with organizations to help and make sure that we all understand the tools and the mechanisms that we need or have at our disposal to not there and sit there and feel like we need permission from these people anymore, and or their help or their guidance or whatever, because they're just so lost and we have no.
Well, you just said something that sparked a thought in my brain. And when I hear new things, and for me, hearing new things, I have to open it up and research to find out what this is. And you just said something that just struck a thought in me. And you said 10th Amendment, state rights. What is that?
So then in every state, the beautiful thing about this country, before there was a federal government, you had every state that was essentially its own country. Their sovereign states, right? And so a perfect example of this is we haven't really exercised that too much, because we haven't had so much, infighting with, issues in society until now. And the cannabis industry, and that's actually my background. I was in the cannabis industry for a long time. And I started to learn from my political consultants and lobbyists on how to assert your rights. Like, where it started for me was I was asking about this one dispensary in Oakland, Harborside, big, the biggest in the world at the time. And while I'm seeing everybody getting busted around us by the feds and locals, and I'm like, why are they still open? And they're the largest in the world. And then so I was in my early 20s. And then I tried to figure out, and then I got political consultant and lobbyist and did all these things, and then come to find out it's the local law enforcement and the politicians. If they don't allow the feds to come in, the feds don't have any jurisdiction. And that sparked a huge thing for me. And I'm like, oh, that's how we do it. Okay. So you really just need your local support, and the federal government has no jurisdiction over you anymore. So all this concern about who's the next president and all these things, and Congress and the Senate, screw those people. They have no power over us, no jurisdiction, if we assert our rights and we know our rights. So that's why I'm trying to teach now in the political realm, instead of just using it for cannabis or some other issues, now we can use it on other ones. And create sovereignty amongst ourselves and get our communities back to where they don't have this power over us, and they're controlling us with money. If you don't want to do what they say, they're going to pull funding and all these things. So we need to create the mechanisms to self-regulate ourselves and then kind of back out of those agreements with them, so they don't have that control over us anymore. So a lot of transgender stuff's being pushed down our throats right now with our kids, and there's drag queens in the school. No, somewhat, yeah, because at a local level, if you, as a community, feel that's okay, and that's your right to express that as a community or whatever, a church or organization or group, then yeah, you can. And that's what's kind of sad. But a lot of people don't, and they want to be able to utilize those things, and you don't have to wait for the federal government to do it. You can do that on a local level,
Yeah, that's food for thought for me, because like I say, we always trying to find a way, I believe in, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. Growing up being a part of a family who was segregated, for fair housing, how segregation played a big part here in the city of Los Angeles, even though California was considered a free state. The local laws were still Jim Crow, in a sense, where you had still certain things that certain races of people couldn't do. And my family, was a part of that up until the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which is giving us opportunity to cross boundaries and stuff. But today, as we go through a lot of those historical black communities who black folks was once upon a time stuck in these environments, these communities are no longer predominantly black anymore. And they're predominantly people that's there from other countries that's living in a lot of these households, and the actual people who come up out of that journey are now homeless. And so we're trying to find different ways to address that without being too political or looked at it as being hateful, but just trying to reclaim. The things that was taken from us.
Keep a culture.
Yeah, keep a culture.
Happening all over the world.
And
that's what the elite right now are doing. They're forcing this mass immigration all over the world to break everything up. confuse everybody in their social roles and their cultural roles and all these things. And that's where all this fighting's coming from. Just open borders, let everybody do whatever they want. We're giving them all these perks and all this stuff. And then what happens? All this chaos starts happening. And then now we're not really paying attention to what they're doing now. Now we're, sitting here within our daily struggles here. And it's just, it's an ongoing cycle. It's the same MO. A Hegelian dialectic, right? Problem, reaction, solution. They do the same thing every time for thousands of years. And once you start seeing this pattern, then that's when you're like, oh, okay, I know what they're about to do. They just stage this is going to happen here, and that's going to happen there. So.
You're absolutely right. You speak a lot about civil engagement at a local level to control the masses of the politicians or politicians that are here cutting deals amongst themselves, and then threatening you with federal ideologies again and political views as a threat to their school of thought. My question to you is, of all the time that you spent with your grandfather, Maxwell Jordan, what stuck in your head more than anything? And just so you'll know, and I've had this discussion with you, I met Mr. Maxwell Jordan during the 1992 uprising in which he seeked us out in the community. And he called me one night and he was like, yo, Malik, there's a train full of heroin coming into California, to the United States from someplace, and it's like 10 times more potent than the heroin that's on the streets now. So I watched it, and he said it's coming in a couple of days and you'll see it, and you'll see people overdose it. And can you believe that soon as your grandfather told me that Kurt Cobain dude, I believe, literally died right down the street from this studio right here at the thing. What is your take on some of the prognostications of Mr. Maxwell in terms of conspiracies, or even you and I, we've had the discussion along with Daul, how they code the vaccine shots for the COVID and other things. Expound on that for me if you may.
Oh my God. Yeah, the vaccine is a nightmare where the genie's out of the bottle. And unfortunately with nanotechnology, but I'll go back to your first point, like with the drug stuff, or knowing his relationships with people, oddly, what's that saying about politics makes odd bedfellows, kind of thing. So in his world especially, because he operated on like the highest level of like structural understanding of religion and social groups and how they work. And so like say a lot of these royal families and how they set up their trusts and their businesses and the contracts with all the different countries and how those work. He was very much interested in that and religion, but then that attracted all of those people because they're like, oh wow, this guy's an expert on this. I'm still learning. Even these families, they don't have it all figured out. You know what I mean? Like most of them don't. They're all doing kind of their own.
And you're talking about the Royal Secret Society families as we know?
Yeah, just families that are prominent in society all over the world that run.
Give us an example of one that you may think of that may be that we can apply this perspective.
Like
to.
Everybody thinks of the Rothschilds, being like the one of the big ones. But then there's some other like Italian and European families that are well known, like the Orsini family, and there's a bunch of other ones that they're like even behind them, and those are the guys kind of like behind the Vatican, and they'll talk to the most people think of the one pope, and there's a gray pope and a black pope that run different organizations within that organization, and like the Jesuits, all these people. So but they all have, at the end of the day, they operate under UCC commerce law, contract law, right? Every single thing they do, their assets and their business interactions with anybody around the world are all in this realm, and they spend all their money and time building within this realm. So that's why I try to teach us is per the World Economic Forum, they raised $150 trillion to implement this Agenda 2030 thing, right? Since the 90s, they've been preparing for this, but in 2020, they kicked it in a high gear. And this is when I started to get active, and I was just like, okay, I got to come out of business now, and because I see that they're about to attack everybody. And what they did was they drafted these United Nations Accords, and they had every country adopt these and essentially circumvented the sovereignty of every nation through world governance, right? So that one world government, it's happening right now. It's already done.
New World Order, you mean?
Yeah, the New World Order that everybody's been talking about forever.
George Bush.
Yeah, that's happened through one world governance. They didn't even need the one world government to do it, but they did it through contracts through all the countries. So now they have access to all the natural resources, the water, the food, the energy, the banking, you name it, and movement of everything around the world. So That's what we try to teach everybody through that one project, America 21st Century, is seeing how they've done that and how to utilize 10th Amendment states' rights to get out of the jurisdiction of what they're doing. And it's simple as like a referendum in your city, county, or state. So, yeah.
What about a referendum as you as an individual? Well, how important is that? What's the rights of an individual where we have how does this relate to our Magna Carta rights between us and God? Because what we're saying is that you have spiritual wickedness in high places who was operating from a contract based upon something they stole in the beginning anyway. And all they did was find a way to fine-tune it to get to seem like it's normal. And it goes back to who gave you the authority?
Well,
Where did they get the authority
we
from?
all gave up that authority to them based off of when your parents signed your birth certificate. So since our very birth, I mean, we're just indoctrinated, and hey, that's just the way life is. And every time you access something with the government, like your driver's license or your registration, these are all contracts with the government that now have jurisdiction over your assets, and now they can manage things. They can tax stuff, they can levy stuff, they can do all types of all the bylaws within those agreements are so massive that people don't know. That's why they get screwed, and that's why you have to have attorneys represent you, because you don't understand what you're looking at, and these guys got to tell you, but all they tell you is the procedures of the back and forth to settle this agreement, but they don't teach you the contract law of actually how it's working behind the scenes. And that's what Jordan was famous for. He always used this. He's like, I'm an esoteric scholar, and what esoteric means is just hidden, right? So like, for instance, he always uses this example of a bank. You go into a bank. Most people know how a bank works. You put your money in, you can get it out at any point, you can transfer money, blah, blah, blah. And then a bank manager might know how the bank operates behind the scenes a little bit and how it interacts with the Federal Reserve or some of the laws or whatever. And then there's the Federal Reserve and then the real contract law. That's the esoteric stuff that I try to address all the time, is the real underlining issues of how these things work.
They call that the fine print.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, you guys were actually having a great conversation about some things just now, and Daul made mention of the Magna Carta rights. A lot of people don't know, if you're not aware of this, but Jay-Z owns that Magna Carta book, I believe it is. Jay-Z, the rapper. So, Jay, we up on you, baby. That was a smart move. That was almost like Michael Jackson buying the Elephant Man bones. You know what I'm saying? Or the Beatles catalog.
What are you giving credit to Jay-Z for?
Yeah, well, I'm not giving credit. I'm just letting
Jay-Z up on a contract.
Well, that's why he got the book.
Well, who owns Jay-Z?
I have no clue. I have no clue.
That's who got it then.
Yeah, I have no clue, but I can
And he's
tell you,
esoteric.
there you go. Well, most things today in that world is esoteric. So what we're trying to do is bring it to the surface so that the people can actually make a decision for themselves. Personally, I wanted to bring this to the light. You've done a lot of dwelling on the Crenshaw tip and in the black community, and you know some of the key players in our community that are actually there. How did you get involved with that? And if Maxwell was here today, what would he say about the future of black America as it stands right now, with immigration, the borders being shut down from here to Australia, to having the exact same crisis all around the world? How would he address it as it pertains to black people? And what was your experience like dealing with in an urban environment? And how did you happen to come into that setting?
Well, when I was young, I remember I told you I was in the cannabis industry, so I became a pretty good grower of OG Kush, and that was big back in 20-some years ago.
OG's great
right?
again.
Yeah, baby. Especially the Kush.
Yeah, it was like $8,000 a pound when I first started. So
I remember those good old days. Them the good old days.
That was good, yeah.
Now let me ask you a question before you go any further. I heard rumors that, of course, the word Kush means the cushion, the rim of the mountain, like the brim or the perimeter of the mountain. And I heard that it was a brother that was also involved with the manufacturing of the original OG Kush. Would that be correct?
There was, from what I understand, the best explanation of it is that there was 6 guys from Florida, that Floridan OG Kush, that they brought it out to LA. I know that there's one black gentleman in that group, so maybe that's the guy you're talking about. But the only one I know is this guy, Matt Bubba Berger. He was the one who bred Bubba Kush, but he also brought out that OG. And then Josh D out here, that's famous for him being the OG of LA, because he kind of got that cut and then made it famous, or made Josh D OG famous. And then there's variations. So when it was just OG Kush, the first time that it started going into other things was I think Skywalker kind of cut that strain and went into a different direction. But before that, it was like, if you hear Larry OG, SFV OG, King Louie, those are all original OG strains.
Well, you making me want to take a smoke break, man.
Me too. I know if you have
I'm
one.
serious, man. Only thing I'm waiting for you to say is Eddie Lepp coming through the door, Jack Hare, or the Emerald Triangle. We're on our way. Which, by the way, I was great friends with Eddie Lepp and Jack Hare. I didn't smoke with Jack Hare. You know why, Doc? Because Jack Hare would roll a joint. The best weed on earth. His weed has this minty, like citrus taste.
Yeah, the Jack Herrera, that is a really distinctive.
The best high, very distinct. It was almost like a pine taste. But he would put so much saliva on the joint and then roll it, because he was old school. He would roll it and put it in and roll it. I'm like, no, Jack, we passed on that, man. It's COVID. You know, Jack, I love you, guys. I still got a signed poster by him, by the way.
That's awesome.
But that's just a little food for thought. So, when you came into the Kush industry, and I don't mean to dominate the questioning, because Dao, of course, we've had a lot of questions we wanted to ask you. How did that association through the manufacturing and distribution of Kush lead you to the ghetto? And what would Maxwell say today pertaining to black people, in particular in Los Angeles, with the housing crisis, the gangs starting to stop, the food that's being placed in our face that's poison? What would his position be?
Well, I'll start with how I got introduced, I guess, to the more, because I grew up in the Valley. That was more, I grew up in kind of a rough area in Reseda, where when I went to school, I would get, jumped all the time, but it was mainly by essays. I was surrounded by Mexican gangs all the time. So I had that portion of it, but never really had to deal with like inner city LA stuff until I was growing that OG Kush, and I would have this one buyer, actually Lone,
I'm big Lone. Lone. Shouts out to Lone, man.
Yeah,
Lone.
OG, he's a one of the best dudes I know.
Yes, he is.
And just super solid, and now he's doing a lot of cool work like within the community up in Fresno. And
Fresno,
back in Compton.
Lone. Yeah, a lot of my friends. I got introduced to this. I knew the industry, but the person that walked us in was Lone. We met
really?
Lone through one of my friends him and Lone done time together.
Okay.
My friend named Kaka, and so we been dealing with A-Lone. I goes out there. They have a teen summit, which I think one of his, I want to say his daughter's granddaughter was murdered out there in Fresno through a drive-by, and I met some of the people that was doing some great works out there in Fresno, and like I say, shouts out to Lone, man. He's a real solid, like you say, very, very solid person, very solid.
Yeah, so that was it. I would go down, and and he's kind of got a pass to go in between all the hoods for a long time, and so I would go with him, like, kind of as like, hey, no, just come with me. I'm like, and so I'd be hanging out, drinking, smoking with everybody, and yeah, it was cool. But just to get to know that side of things with everybody, and then with Jordan, I would say what he would say is that throughout time, like people like Jesse Jackson and a lot of these people, and like
Messi Jackson,
yeah. Okay. That's where it kind of started, I think, within the black community, getting kind of
down with dope.
No, but just being like circumvented. Like most movements and things are co-opted at, like, if it's not by one of your people, it's gonna be by the CIA or somebody. Yeah. It's just like that. Once you start gaining enough traction and power and voice and influence, somebody's gonna come in and try to do their thing. But with people like Jesse Jackson, a lot of the guys, what I've heard is that they used to deal with a lot of the Jewish guys, the mafia dudes here in LA and in Vegas, and they were kind of like their heavy-handed things. Like if this Jewish guy didn't like how a business was operating or a deal was operating, he would go hire a lot of black dudes to go in and say, hey, if you don't get this done, he was like, I might have 100 of my dudes outside tomorrow, and you're not going to like it. And then they just be like, okay. And so that there's like this weird synergy of that. And it was like that forever, even with the Italians. I'm Sicilian Irish, but I had family in back east that would talk about stuff like that and trash contracts. And black people and Italians worked very close together in a lot of those ways like that too. So that's just life and the way things worked for a while.
You're definitely right, and it's still going on today, because I don't know if people are aware of this guy named Ron Burkle, who runs Ukaipa. Who's
Sounds familiar.
Ron Burkle is probably number 69 on the billionaire list, and he's when you talk about P. Diddy and Revolt, that's the money behind that, Ron Burko. And he owns all the Ralph and Food for Less, and he's a major contributor to the Democratic Party. When they talk about President Clinton on that airplane with all them young girls, he was on Ron Burko's plane. And so Ron Burko is that type of person that, has that relationship, like I said, with Diddy. And, Diddy with the Revolt and doing the elections, and that type of money is behind that. A lot of people think it's more music, but it's more towards him. Ron Burko owns a lot of platforms, probably own a lot of things that we're using right now today. And so he's like that, and he's a principal guy. So when he's disrespected, he doesn't like it. And so what he does is, with his partnership with us, kind of get things out there to get people, held accountable to like a lot of things that they do that's transgressing on him. But like I say, that those relationships, and like I say, that's why I say we understand certain people and certain individuals and certain relationships, that's politically behind the scene, that's hidden. Yep. But there is those relationships that still exist today.
It's crazy that when we mentioned Ron Burko and Dose, he's number 69 on the billionaires list. And the first thing came to my mind was freaky ass nigga. He's a 69 guy. Hey, run for your life. Run for your life. I'm just saying that's what went through my mind because I'm pre-programmed. You know what I mean? So as soon as you say something, I go by. It's like, what's that? Pavlov's bell. Ding, ding, when you ring the bell, the dog starts salivating and shit. So that's how I am in America. You ring a doorbell on me because that's what they do in the penitentiary. They put the doorbell on, you go to chow. Somebody come to your house, they ring a bell. You know what I'm saying? When the motherfucker get your ass whooped, God bless my nigga Rock the Bell from Six Deuce Brims, they ring your bell. Everything is a bell, man. You know what I mean? A bell to hell. The postman come, the police run to your door. They don't run to your door with the bell. They come with that barbershop knock again. The barbershop knock, and that knock went all the way back to other beats because it was used like James Brown's beats and some more shit. But what I was going to tell you was, I wanted to share this with the listening audience. Do you know that every time your children break out the door, like Eddie Murphy saying, run to the ice cream truck, that ice cream truck song is a racist song. Really? That was to get the blacks to come out to buy watermelons and pork chops back in the days. And they're still getting a check from that now. I think whoever wrote that song, and he might know Ahmed and them dudes, but this nigga must have wrote a 360 deal. Just saying, it's Ahmed over there. But he ain't in the room right now, but I'm just saying, did this nigga write the 360 deal for the Christmas song? It's this motherfucker. How did he get the ice cream truck song? Hey, Mac, what's happening with you, player? Oh, yeah, but that's what I was going to tell you, man, because, these motherfuckers is slick. But look here, man, we're glad to have you here, and we wanted you to kind of expound on the Jordan situation, but we also wanted to throw some key phrases out there, some words, and I'm just going to let you blast it to the moon. I'll start by saying George Soros. What would Maxwell say about Mr. George Soros, who, by the way, is in charge of a lot of the civil activity that's going on today, Black Lives Matter, funding? George Soros thought that he was God, and then, of course, Mr. Maxwell spoke to the situation about the Jesus thing and all that. What would he say about Mr. Soros? And I'll just give you a rapid version of the three individuals that I'd like to ask him about. I'll throw out Soros, Mr. Kamala Harris, and I would like for you to expound on the Obamas. What do you think about those three deities?
George Soros lived way too long.
Wow. Can you repeat that?
You said
he lived way too long.
Wow.
Should have been taken out a long time ago, which I always say to myself, like, all these crazy motherfuckers here on this planet, and not one dude, like, is taking these people, like, that's what I don't get. It's like everyone's targeting their anger towards, like, innocent, like, all this stuff, and I'm like, you have these complete psychopaths that do not need to be here, and they're still walking around until they get old.
Give me your definition of what George Soros, the threat or the non-threat, if there is such a thing, and concerning his activity.
Well, they're the worst people on the planet. I mean, those families. If you a good book to watch or to read and a documentary to watch is Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I don't know if you ever heard that one. It really paints a good
That sounds like
picture.
Soros' son now, because he's in charge of all the economic stuff now. So he's the new economic hitman.
Well, this came out, I think it was in like maybe the late 80s, early 90s, and it painted a picture on how the world banks and people like that would go in, negotiate deals with countries to go loan them money for infrastructure or whatever. Maybe, hey, you got to build some bridges or some dams or, some power infrastructure or something. And because they're bankers and they understand very intimately how numbers work, they would purposely give them deals that they know that they couldn't pay back because of, whatever their little algorithm is. And then they couldn't pay it back, and then they would get access to those natural resources. Now, if they didn't...
It sounds like the DWP.
Yeah, them too. Yeah, they're killing it. Man,
Straight
you find all
gangsters.
that money in their coffers, I was like, damn.
Them
I
was
was like, they
gangsters
gotta-
right there.
Yeah, and they're talking about doubling the electric bill right now.
I
right?
thought they
I'm
did
like,
it already because my shit has been skyrocketing.
Yeah, it's
Since
crazy.
these 4 years, my electrical bill went up about 90%.
I was going up 35% more starting
Yeah.
next month. The DWP, that acronym, stands for Department of Water and Power, and to us it means damn, won't pay.
Yeah.
So, tell us about the DWP family and that charter that they have, and how does that affect us as regular common citizens in terms of the proprietorship that we have in the community with our houses, our business, and our properties?
Not really familiar with their structure, to be honest.
Would it be
Didn't
part
really-
of Would it be part of that controlled world order with the rest of the corporate societies and
Yeah.
different deities that they worship? Like, for example, the dude who built the stadium at SoFi.
Yeah.
Is he part of that structure, or is this the new world order?
Yeah, I mean, privatizing a lot of these things are a problem. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I mean, we see how poorly government-run stuff is. So there has to be some type of kind of like hybrid model, I think, to have like proper, oversight, like a governmental kind of oversight, but you can have a little bit of, private influence to where it runs a little bit more efficiently. I think that those are probably the major problems with it.
Yeah.
Like in allowing Bill Clinton, I think this is a huge pivotal moment when Bill Clinton took out all of the kind of monopoly laws. That's what opened up the floodgates for all this shit to happen ever since then.
You mean after NAFTA, whatever it was, that the free trade thing?
Well, they tried that, but what this allowed to do, it's like now you have companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street that own 88% of the world's wealth, right now, or at least the country's wealth. And then they're buying up all these properties, like they're the largest homeowners, and they own all the major corporations and all this stuff. Like that couldn't have happened back, before Clinton, right?
Yes,
because if
1996.
somebody had a monopoly on one industry, you'd have to break it up because it just causes so many
Yeah.
problems. So like same thing like in Inglewood, what I really respect and like about Inglewood is that they kind of banned all these major corporations out of the way to make sure that you have mom and pop places there. So you keep people working. You have people that specialize in stuff and keep that business going, and everybody gets supported.
Well, I think
you
that's
know?
the same thing that happened as it relates to the FCC and a lot of these broadcasting corporations in 1996. Like you say, by them removing that, allowed these major brand corporations to have subsidiaries, which back in the days they wasn't allowed to do subsidiaries because that leads to the monopolizing. Because you have a $1 billionaire, he can create 500 subsidiaries to monopolize the whole industry, and that's what happened also when they took the PTAR in 1996, and what you said, Bill Clinton came in with that law that removed that. That allowed all these broadcasting companies into programming, and now we
And it
getting
opened
all
up the
type of
floodgates.
trash and floodgates and flooding us.
Mergers and weird
but
mergers
it's
and
all it's controlled by two corporations that people think, oh, that's another one. That's another one. No, they all the same. They all there's a pyramid. There's
Yeah,
one top
it said now
and
these
everything.
three
Yes.
companies own 88%. The last time I
Yes.
checked, that was and then those three companies own majority stocks in those companies. So
Yes.
it's essentially one company.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, see, I never know. Yeah, and I knew I didn't know how large was the magnitude of that because I read that just looking at the FCC and looking at how broadcasting and recording associations was able to manipulate and monopolize and take over all this stuff, whereas we can't get a company because they got all the companies, and in order for us to get in, we got to come in with 5 million or $1 billion just to have a conversation, even being part of the spread. You know what I'm saying? The spread, just the advertising dollars.
At the table.
Yeah, you can't have a seat at the table, and it's controlled by foreign national corporations and stuff like that. And that's what Soros is. He's a foreign national citizen he's out of Budapest or somewhere.
Well, he was running from the Nazis, his family.
Well, he probably is Nazi.
And 9 times out of 10, he was probably with the crew. But he thinks that he's really God. There was another gentleman that had that thing, that mentality, Mr. Kissinger. And they asked Mr. Kissinger once, he had like, what, 2 million murders? I mean, he was the most wickedest individual on earth, Henry Kissinger. He died with like 2 million murders underneath his belt.
He died?
Yeah, he's out. He's in that
I thought
fire.
he came back.
He came back, but his credit wasn't the same, so he left. But white folks got to have that credit. You come, they don't give a fuck where they going. If they going to hell, they gonna have that credit. They don't give a fuck where you at, heaven, the project. They gonna have an 850 FICO score. My black ass, my credit ain't even got a pulse, and I ain't even googling my motherfucking name. If you fuck around and get slapped running my credit by TRW, whatever it is. But on the contrary, I feel it's important that we concentrate and enlighten the public on some of these people that are really holding us in a position of not completion but yet failure. And when you're held in the purgatory of failure, you seem to be swimming uphill without a paddle. So it's like swimming uphill up Schitt's Creek. I really find it interesting that some of these subsidiaries like BlackRock, people, and we want to expound on that again. And there's another one that's out here in Santa Monica, I believe it's called Blackstone. BlackRock and Blackstone. But BlackRock is really the devil.
Yeah.
Like that's really, and then of course George Soros' son, who's controlling the monetary system, I believe in South America and some other places where he's in charge of some currency and how it moves and how it's affecting the economy that we also know so very well. But that BlackRock, let's talk a little bit about that. For example, BlackRock is so evil, they'll buy 1 million deeds and they'll just sell your shit to Century 21 without you knowing. So you're paying your mortgage every month. You got a 6.9 interest rate and you're on time and everything. And they just wake up one day like, you know what, we're going to sell this big bulk of properties a day. And next thing you know, you get a bill and your rent and your mortgage is increased. But tell him a little bit about how BlackRock is really going to just rock the world and really put us all in an impoverished state.
Yeah, the only way to get out of it is to break up that monopoly. We have to insist that gets done. I mean, yeah,
BlackRock really is going to hurt people like Madeira, elderly people that don't know, and a lot of young people who are trying to purchase houses. When I heard Kamala Harris say she's going to give out $25,000 incentive for people to get homes. By the way, they're giving migrants new homes with no money down here in California.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But when she said that, I said to myself, the math ain't math in Taraji P.
So,
because not to cut your wisdom, but if you give out $25,000 credits, don't you think that the people selling houses are just going to increase the price, and that's going to cause inflation or something? I mean,
1,000%.
if I'm going to give you $25,000, for example, one of my relatives own buildings, and young ladies used to rent apartments, and they rent the apartments, and he's like, yo, I know this bitch going to be late, so the rent is only $1,200, but he'll say $1,300, he'll say $1,500. So when she come late, hey, Mr. Willie, you know, I'm late with that rent, you know, I only got $1,100. Well, you know what that means, baby. You got to knock something down. So that's how that works. You know, it's his old landlord trick, you know, because you know the bitch gonna come playing games, right? I only got $900, but you rent $1,900. All right, so you need some Scully. You gotta get some Scully, you know. So that's how that go, man. So hey, you know, continue. You know, parental discretion advised.
Here's my question to that, and it goes hand in hand with, like, you look at today how minimum wage went up. Now the people at fast food is making $20 an hour. How did that impact you?
Yeah, but now
Wait. They raised the prices on the food. So they raised the prices on the consumer. So we're not getting nothing. We only paying more to make sure that they get the same money, but the cost of living hasn't went down. Same thing with Kamala Harris. She's offering $25,000. Well, Kamala Harris, where are you going to get that money from? She's going to raise everything around us. She's going to raise gas. She's going to raise milk. She's going to raise cigarettes. She's going to raise everything to get to that number. You know what I'm saying? So it's not really a benefit, because the cost of living is not going down because you're going to raise the consumer pricing, and that means we have to pay more to even get that. So we ain't really get anything. We're paying for ourselves. So that's how the system works. So they're not talking. They now one of the campaigns is talking about the reduction of the debt, which is $34 trillion. How is they going to take that from us? Because that attributes to us as individuals, as consumers. Each one of us owes $900,000 that's attributed to that $34 trillion. So you're putting this debt on our children. And so if a doomsday, then my person is, what is the doomsday clock? What that represents?
That's at 11:59.
Because that's most important, because I'm thinking that doomsday clock is a correlation to the billionaires who we indebted to. I'm just trying to figure out how all that stuff, because that's where I'm trying to lock in the correlation. You talk about doomsday clock. You've been talking about this clock. Okay, who the hell is threatening billions of people? You know what I'm saying? That's in a position to say, hey, you guys are on the doomsday clock. Who the hell is these people?
Well, and that's actually an interesting subject, and that's a part of the organization that I co-founded with Jordan, the Order of the New Dawn. It's just for a group of people to help expose these kind of things, right? Political, religious, societal stuff. And that one component to which we call esoteric finance is they control the money market accounts by being able to just pull their money out of it and bankrupt nations overnight, right? And that's what happened in 2008. One of my really good close friends helped draft up. He's the largest bondholder in the world right now. That guy, Clayton Utterback. I think we were talking about him before. But I was just talking to him yesterday. And I was asking him, I said, how close are we again to what's going to happen? Because what happened in 2008, remember when the banks failed? Too big to fail, right? They got to bail them out.
Barack Obama's era.
Yeah, so in 2008, there was $500 billion that was taken out of the money market accounts overnight, and it caused panic. We're like, holy shit, like everybody needed money to be able to pay the bills the next day, and if they didn't happen, like all hell would break loose. And then they were trying to get out another $500 billion, which I think they only had like 2.5 trillion at the time or something like that. And so my friend single-handedly, because he comes from a banking family and understands this real high-level banking, he submitted to Congress a packet over the weekend to be able to essentially, on behalf of the American people, to bail out these people so that way we wouldn't go into this downward spiral. And so he drafted all that up. And then they kept this slush fund open. It's known as the TARP program. They were supposed to close it down within 2 years, and they didn't. And they kept it open. It looks like they're trying to close it in January. So he'll end up getting paid for his program that he presented, right? And so we have him on our team now to help draft things. So as we start talking as a community and all our different organizations and groups that we're trying to organize, we want to help bring in that type of structure into how we operate as businesses and how we structure our financial structure, because we can get control over those things if we understand how to write them and do them in our own charters, how we engage it to the public or other entities or whatever, and we can structure it to where we can all eat, So yeah, those tools, and I can't articulate it exactly very well on what that program looks like, but that's where people like Clayton would come in as the expert and be like, okay, this is what we got to do, and he's got his whole plan, and so. Because
that's where we're at today. Because my thing is never. I don't know how people panic. Like you say, when they removed that money from people panicked. It's just like when the stock market crashed back in 19, people jumped off a roof, they killed themselves. Yeah. People panic.
Because we're giving them that power. And so the 3 pillars of focus for the order that I co-founded with Jordan are individual sovereignty, which addresses how you safeguard yourself and your family and your assets, right? And how you set up your trust and all those things, and make sure that you're not easily, you can't easily be attacked by outside, forces, right? And then there's a societal component to it, which we address these things, what I was talking about with America 21, on how to assert our 10th Amendment states' rights to protect ourselves. And then the last part is esoteric finance, which then addresses these things so that way we can't be at the beg and call and whim of what they do that will affect all of us in total. So if we don't get those 3 things kind of understood and in order, I think we're just going to keep running around in circles.
Well, they got this thing that's in the on the social media platforms, and they talk, and it's going throughout the black community, especially the black community. I don't know if it was targeted towards us, but they talking about this thing about Project 2025. What is that? You know,
Oh, with the Trump?
yeah, with the Project 2025 and all this.
To be honest, I don't really. No, well, that's another one. That's Agenda 2030, which is a continuation of Agenda 21 that they started in the 90s. And then so Agenda 2030 is more of a concern. Donald Trump's Agenda 2025 or whatever that is, or what is it, Project 2025?
Project 2025.
Yeah. That, I'm not really familiar with it. 'Cause I don't pay attention to those things. They don't really concern me at the base level of it, because
So basically, it's
it
just a bunch
doesn't.
of political jargon just to get people scared not to vote for somebody and
Yeah,
stuff
exactly,
like that.
because-
Doesn't really have no world effect, no really effect to us as citizens.
No
in
points
this
in authority
country.
whatsoever.
You know, because most black folks,
Yeah.
when they hear something from a lot of these, campaigns or these people financing campaigns, and they target black Americans, it's pretty much to scare us always into voting. You're gonna die! Trump's a racist! All this crazy shit, and they have us vote for shit that really is not in the best interest.
Yeah, and it's all
us
incremental
as a community.
bullshit. They never get to the end game, right? Like, where we're trying to get to is, like, if we have a problem, what is the best solution for that? You know what I mean? We want to get here. That's what I'm trying to do, is find all those things and have the best minds and the best people come up with those solutions, and then run campaigns that end up those things. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of years, is preparing for all those things. And I can talk for days on all these different components and organizations and people and things. But that's what I focus on. So instead of this incremental bullshit of, like, these people, I got this great idea. I'm like, okay, let's talk through it for a bit. And then you come to see, like, yeah, a little kind of short-sighted, you know what I mean? Like, this is just ends up to the same place where we're at again. It doesn't solve the real problem, And that's why I'm about. I'm all for nothing, or I'm going home. I want to chill and relax with my family or my friends, smoke, go barbecue, whatever. Or if we're going to do something, do it right. I'm not going to sit there and
half-baked.
yeah, it's just I don't have the patience for it. And especially if you want to get intellectually involved in something, and if you have, luckily I've been, because of Jordan Maxwell, I've been surrounded by some of the most brilliant people in the world. So I don't know if you're familiar with Manly P. Hall's work. He's off of Los Feliz. He has the Philosophical Research Society. So it's somewhere you should visit. It's a cool place. But that place was like the X-Men of the world in, like, the 70s and 80s, because all the brightest people, the guys who invented the microchip, the backbone of the internet, guys who got poached for, like, Area 51 projects, all these black budget projects, NASA, you name it, all the who's who of the world that were making anything or had any great ideas or any great philosophies came out of this organization. And that was my mentor, Jordan, or his mentor.
Sounds like a group coming out of Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, exactly. No, but, like, of the real, true intellectual elite. But then those people, those frickin' wolves, were there trying to poach all those people around and get them on their team. And some people did, some people didn't. And the people that didn't are the people that I know, that I talk to, that are really good, kind-hearted people that never join any fraternal orders and don't have any allegiances to any of these people, And that's where you get killed at the end of the day. People why you get killed
your
and
pet
why
and
you
knock
don't
you out.
is, if you're a part of an organization, if you're a scientist, a group, a company, you're in a fraternal order, Masons, whatever, and then, or any gang for that matter. It's just like the cartel or the mafia, right? You try to get out after you're okay, like, no, like, you can't just get out and just be, go talk shit to the news and, like, what? Yeah,
That sounds like my first marriage.
It sounds like something that's on the Titanic.
Yeah, that sounds
Let's
like my
talk about
first
the
marriage.
Titanic.
Oh, that was a huge pivotal moment in American
That was
history.
very huge. Most
That-
people didn't understand the
that
concept
fucked
of
a
none of that
lot.
stuff, and they just looked at it as a movie, not knowing that was a real life scenario that took place in this country that shifted
All the most
that we're
influential
doing as
people
far
that
as
kept our country
Yes.
sovereign through banking, not having a centralized bank, those were all those people on that ship.
One of those-
And right when it drops, Federal Reserve pops up, and then everything, all the dominoes start falling from there.
Yeah, I seen a thing where they did the planning for the Federal Reserve over at the sacred site of some Indian people. One of the people that helped put that whole ideology together, they have a sacred location where they all have these little houses. And one of the individuals, and I'm not really a scholar at remembering these type of people in terms of their names, but he had his bedroom over the gravesite of one of these indigenous people that was buried there, a chief or something. And that's where they went to retreat, like a Camp David place, in order to put together the Federal Reserve and do their rituals and whatnot. And it was very spooky.
Jackal Island.
There you go.
Creature from Jackal Island.
There you go. I mean, once you start looking at that location, how they had them little houses there, and this dude was so wicked. He had his bed over the glass floor, looking at the coffin of the indigenous people that they stole the land from. The dude, I mean, it was some weird.
I don't remember that.
It's some weird shit going on. I mean, when you take a look at it, how they built it, how they went to retreat to like Camp David joint, and they picked all their locations. Actually, the place is a tourist attraction right now today, and it showed you the little houses that each one of them stayed in, and they put together the whole monetary system and all that. Because I think they what do they call those type of people? There's a word for it that they use for them, mendacity or something like that. It's like a group of people that just lie and put shit together. And just
it's in their families for generations, and their kids are brought up like that, and that's why it's just so natural and second nature to them. And that's how it is. And then when you feed them since you're young, and especially like some of the royal families, they think like their blood is different than other people's. Our blood, our genetics are superior to everybody else.
Well, that's why they was fucking each other and have a lot of nepotism going on.
Exactly, yeah. And to make sure to keep the power and the money in the family too, though.
So what do you think they feel about that sister that's married to the prince? Or the guy in England or whatever his name is. Was it Prince Harry or something?
Harry and Markle.
Yeah, she's kind of like another Princess Diana kind of
you think they'd be mad at her for frying chicken in that motherfucker?
Oh, right.
Smoking weed,
Did she?
I'm quite sure she listened to Megan Thee Stallion. Kamala Harris smoked weed, and then I'll put your ass in jail. So I'm just saying, do you think like she be sucking dick at the royal house? You have Caucasian descent, so you might know a little bit about that Tata shit over there. What you think they doing over there with that broad? They might have tossed her up, though. You think they tossed her up?
Probably. I mean, they do a lot of weird shit.
I'm just checking, man, because I heard they had some babies in the basement with big heads and, some deformed shit. They show you the royal family, but they ain't showed you the hood.
Oh, yeah.
I heard the hood is in the basement, and they be sucking some dick down there. Is that true? The royal family.
That's probably the least of it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, just so y'all know, man, this has been a great show, and here's a little information that you can take with you. People always say, like the what is that family that we know of? The royal family we just spoke of. Not the Oppenheimers, but the other ones.
Rothschilds?
The Rothschild. And it's really the Rothschilds.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know that.
Yep.
And the reason that they had those names like that and their names were prominent because back then they didn't have a fucking postmaster. They didn't have a post office. So you wasn't getting no mail. So in order to let people know who was who in the zoo and who had the power, they had your name on the house as opposed to an address. See, back then they didn't have addresses and zip codes and a postman and FedEx and all that shit. So they put your name on it, and the Rothschild family was one of those prominent names like the Trumps. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they were able to differentiate between who was who in the communities. And they had a lot of interesting things going on with making up wars and donating and counting money and hey man, it's
yeah,
powerful.
They would finance both sides of the war and make sure whoever wins, they get the spoil either way.
They got the spoils of war, man. Rothschild,
I like that business.
I like them, man. They were some bad.
That kind of remind me of Don King.
But you know what, too? That brother they used to be with Jay-Z knocked one of the Oppenheimers or Rothschild broads. Yeah, what's his name? It's always one of you square-ass motherfuckers with no felonies that be knowing shit. Because, it's like one light-skinned nigga and two dark motherfuckers, and he drives a Range Rover Rolls Royce. But, that dude knocked that broad, man. That's why you see Jay-Z and them throwing up the Illuminati shit and all that. But then he lost the broad. How do you get a broad like that? What's his name again? J Electronics. Assalamu alaikum, because I know you Muslim. You fucked up. Just to let you know, how you get a white bitch like that could have got us some reparations, got him some bread, got the homie some weed, and you let Jay-Z and them play you out of it? Now you broke and she went back to her husband with that $800 million.
She did?
Yeah, she went back. Her family said, no, we're going to cut your EBT card off. She let his BET ass go. Because he was trying to be on TV. He wanted to be a rapper. How do you knock one of the broads that's the heir to the richest family on earth and you don't know what to do?
Yeah.
But then you come over here looking at my bitch. Man, take your ass home.
We're so lost. I mean, most trust fund babies are lost, you know?
Yeah.
They're just...
Oh, if you want to see what they really do, go to Vice TV and look at that one rich kid that undercoverly videotaped some of the wealthiest kids in the world. One kid they interviewed, it was like, yo, so what is your parent own? He's like, oh, my mom owns the Jet Magazine, Esquire. We own 15 casinos. It's on Vice TV. And they stuck a camera and interviewed the wealthiest kids in the world, whose parents are the wealthiest, and interviewed them. They have like horse-driven buggy events, big cocaine parties, yacht speed parties, because they have a safety net for them. In the hood, they don't have a safety net for Pookie. When Pookie tears ass, it's jailhouse, right? Boom, boom. You see him, his head ducked down in the car. But that's how it go. But one of them get caught, they get cut from the front. You know, Pookie go like this. But when they get caught, when Weinstein and all them motherfuckers get caught, they get cut from the front like this, because that's a ritual. Then they got to come in sick.
Yeah.
Bill Cosby, he was blind. Suge fell out the wheelchair. Kobe, that nigga couldn't see. Michael Jackson jumped on the car. You know, all these billionaires, when they got moved, they lawyers is bad. My nigga ass, I get appealed and get brought on the county jail, but spit on by some Crips. You know what I'm saying? So it's a big difference, man, in this social equality. But that's real talk, though, Doc. Rich dudes do not go to jail handcuffed from the back. That's a black ritual.
They took OJ in like that.
No, they didn't. At first, they took OJ like this. Then when OJ couldn't make that bail money, it was like that. See, this I can make bail thing because he got to sign something, right? This the one I can't make. There's a big difference. You know what I'm saying? Fuck so that no bail
so
shit.
That's the no bail position.
See, this right here, this right here. And then somebody else, they always going, yeah, little Pookie, he shot at Trump, but he was a good kid. He took out Miss Stein's trash. He helped the kids learn. But then Pookie, they never go talk to his mama. She homeless, so they can't talk to her. But the first thing they do is Pookie, they go to the prison, lock his brother up. Because that was me shooting at Trump, they'd be locked up everybody in my family.
Shit, everybody be gone, man.
For example, with your brother, do the history. Stomped down. In the feds right now.
Yes, sir.
But ain't nobody sending no credence to him. Man. But if he was the right complexion, he'd be the right selection.
He been in consolatory. Am I saying the right consolatory?
Solitary confinement. You said it right. Consolidated. They consolidated that shit.
He been in consolatory confinement since 1997.
Damn.
Yeah. Oh, his brother ain't no joke, and I'm not gonna discuss this thing on there. But after you do that, you will be worshiping him.
Yeah.
When it comes to justice for poor people and religious people.
Oh yeah. They, you know what I'm saying, and like I say, you know, it was all over religious purposes. You know what I'm saying, according to witness and people just hearing what he done. You know what I'm saying, and it's just like you say, you know, it's just the way they treat certain people in certain situations. You know, and I mean, it's just the way the system is. You know. When they use you for their bread and butter, that's how I look at it. You know, when you the food, you know, it don't matter how they eat; they just want to eat. You know what I'm saying?
Cannibalism at its finest.
You know, you could be a homeless person; they eating off that shit. They don't give a damn. Leave his ass out there. You know, it's just the way the system is. You know, some way, somehow, and like I always say, is that there's more poor people than rich people. And it takes me back to this whole thing, how circuses are ran with how they condition animals. You have an elephant that worth so many damn pounds, but when you see that elephant, he's over there chained to a low-ass gate with a low-ass, you know, chain. You be like, this motherfucker's got to be retarded. You know what I'm saying? But that's just how we are as people.
Yeah, that's called they had a psychological course. They teach you a psychology class with that. When the elephant tied to the string and he still think he's tied up, and all along you've been feeling along. And that's how I describe Black America. Since they use all this psychological warfare on us, a lot of us still think for like in gangs. Gang violence gang banging is over. But you got a lot of brothers that got the post-war syndrome, like Vietnam veterans. They still think the war is going on. So we out here partying, smoking weed, and slapping girls and driving Rolls Royces, and he come out, my car, blah, I'm gonna kill you. Nigga, that shit been over since 92. Fuck you come from? Because he just come out the bushes. He don't know. And that's what's going on today. A lot of people don't know that they free, mentally, spiritually, and physically. When I see Congress and come out and tell me, we're gonna give you a right to get an abortion. You having a right naturally as a woman to get pregnant, and you have a right naturally as a woman to not keep a baby. The government shouldn't have to tell you that it's okay to make a decision on your own. You have Magna Carta rights like everybody else. You're a human being, a free entity.
Let's just go back to what it is. And like I tell people, and I was talking to a lot of group of black men, and we was talking about, the domestic spending in this country and also foreign spending, and how they're spending all this money, but they won't spend money towards other things. And we was talking about abortion. I said, man, they spend over billions of dollars on abortions every year. It's not just abortion; it's the industry that support abortion that goes into medical and all these things. And most of us don't see it because all you focus in on is a woman going through the process of getting her baby aborted.
Those families who started that stuff, they're saying it like it's a ritual for them to tear apart babies. Like whoever wants to believe it or not, like that's what they do. And that's the reason why they push so hard on that.
Yes, yes.
So because I've had, when I was a kid, me and my ex-wife, we had one abortion when we were really young. I was like 15 years old or something, and just growing up and then kind of understanding like this whole Roe versus Wade thing, right? That came out.
Marcus Sanger.
Yeah. So like it comes down to a states' rights thing. So while everybody's pissed off, I'm trying to tell them this is a great thing for the country because that's how it should be. Every state has its own sovereign rights. So for instance, can you at least give one state the right to operate religiously and not have that in their state? Why does everybody have to be that way? You don't like it, go vote with your feet. Get out of there and go somewhere else. That was a saying back in the day in America, right? You vote with your feet. You go to a state that if you're a tree hugging hippie, you go to San Francisco. If you like gun-toting cowboy, you're in Texas.
Yes.
If you're a rancher, you're probably in the Midwest somewhere. Whatever,
Yes.
If you like hoes, go to Hollywood. Shit, everybody had a spot now. Don't leave us out on the
shit.
Just playing, y'all. Just playing. Just playing.
Vote with your feet.
Yeah.
I like that.
Bitch with no instruction aided for self-destruction. It sounded like y'all had some pimping going on over there at George Maxwell's house, man. He gave you some real raw game.
Well, Bishop smoked my OG forever, so I used to go
Bishop Don Juan.
Yeah, I used to go hang out with him all the time.
Oh,
He's a good friend.
I knew you had some ism in you
Don
somewhere,
Juan.
man. I said, man, he got a little bit of ism up in him. It's some pimping. I peep some pimping long distance. You know what I'm saying? I dream of a bright bitch, every day. Because to me, a white bitch is reparations. I wouldn't give a bitch sign for this kid. That's reparations, though. I don't need no pussy. I don't need nothing to eat because I don't eat pork and I don't eat puppies. Shit, bitch, sign right here. Sign right here, record. I committed them. 360 deal. Sign like the one they gave us. 360.
You got a 360.
You gave us a 360. It was really a 740. But. So look, man. Any closing words you want to give us, man? Because we really appreciate you coming.
Really appreciate.
We're hoping that you be a regular guest.
Yes.
I would love.
I like you to invite that other guy that you said who took that $500 million and was writing that program because that's where we at today. We had a crossroads in this country. Whereas I'm 50-something years old now, and so that's when actually our opportunity comes to become real, mature, adult influencers and leaders in our community because we have a young population that's very dumbed down. I mean, dumb to the point where you're looking at all the things that's going on. You got people running and smashing and grabbing, stealing tennis shoes. That's how dumb we are right now today in society. Whereas you have everything around you to make twice as much of what you're going to steal today. Stealing today, especially when you got a 35 of you guys steal 10,000 worth of shit. That means each one of you guys is going to get $25. So
and
that's
25.
how dumb we become.
And 25 years.
And 25 years just for $25. And so we have to find a way where we can create some type of, something that really deals with the common sense.
You have to have an information conduit.
Everything's passed down through incentives. On that point, the reason why we're in this predicament right now is because the state says, okay, anything under $1,000, we're not going to prosecute or we're not going to go after, right? What does that do? It gives an incentive for people to go, oh, I'm not going to get in trouble. I'll go do it. That's why it's happening all over the place. That's the only reason why. And this happens every fucking time, everywhere in banking.
Even if the state says then does do that, why go steal some damn tennis shoes?
Well, see what happens is
These are kids in the cookie jar. You're allowing them to just, they're misguided. They ain't got nothing to do. Like, it's not like when we were kids, we had a lot of shit to do. You got places to go, and there's like, a go-kart track or this or that, or like there's things that we were doing. You know what I mean? But here now, these kids are sitting around like literally nothing to do other than if it's social media, and then they get bored. And they're like, all right, let's go.
So we blame. Do we place a lot of this blame with this type of mentality and behavior on Hollywood? Because there has to be a correlation to that, because it goes when I go break and steal or sell drugs, I'm buying shit that's been advertised, promoted to me through Hollywood. I want to be Cardi. I want to be sexy. I want to be Dirk. I want to be Soulja Boy. I want to dress like they dress. I want to drive what they drive.
Lack of proper fathers. That's where the world's at.
Fathers.
If you don't have the right mentor and father figure to look up to in your life, and if you don't have men in your life and good counsel around you, you're just gonna fucking float wherever you go, you know.
And I can relate to that, and I do believe in that, because in our community, we grew up in a community where 90% of the households was headed by single women. It comes back to we being responsible as fathers again. It comes about us standing up and not so much blaming, but actually just getting out here and working and living by example. Yep. Things like that. We got to encourage even young fathers, you know what I'm saying? Because we got a lot of young fathers out here that ain't never been a father, who never had a father, who's been raised by mothers and raised by society, raised by television.
Man.
So there's no positive examples or even role models like we grew up. We grew up watching Bill Cosby. We grew up watching positive role black models on our television set, including Fred Sanford and Lamont. That was, even though they was working and hustling out of the junkyard, but they was positive role models.
Yeah,
so today,
exactly.
There's not enough positive role models on the silver screen that will give our kids the guidance they need in order for them to start changing their behavior and their actions and things like that. So you got a point there. You definitely got a point there.
And the beautiful thing, the hopeful thing is if you look at history enough, you'll see it's this constant history repeating itself. This is not new. We've been through this probably 1,000 times already. You know what I mean? Every culture, like, there's always this, abundance of, and actually coincidentally, the downfall in between the beginning of a downfall of every empire always starts with some type of sexual,
sexual healing of some sort.
No, it's just all the orgies and the sexual perversions of stuff. If you look over history, you'll see every single civilization at the right at the breaking point. That's where everything gets really weird, and everything's like, okay, free all, everybody do whatever the fuck they want, and then you're just like, okay, well, it comes at a cost to that, and you're going to see what the cost is, and now here's the cost.
Would it be fair to say that was one of the things that the gentleman talked about in the speech, if I were the devil, how he would corrupt the schools, he would make good bad and bad good. For those of y'all who are not familiar with that, also take a look at Jordan Maxwell, the Maxwell Jordan stuff, whichever way you want to Google it. But take a look at that speech by If I Were the Devil, written in 1965, which again, it was a prognostication in my opinion, but it also applies today and what's going on today. Make the good against the bad, make sex seems good, make girls want to be boys, boys want to be girls. Yep. And we just have to keep some sort of civility in our society. And that's why it's important to tap into the Truce podcast show.
The truth.
Press like and subscribe, because
share.
We share information, and we want you to share the information too. Because Daoud and myself, along with you, we've got a treasure trove of information based on experience.
Lived experience.
And you learn today's answers from yesterday's mistake, and we made a lot of mistakes. So we're here to let the youngsters know, like, be careful out there with the Safe City programs they got, where they taking youngsters and catching them guns, turning over to the feds. They turning over that smash and grab now. That's a federal crime. That's called interrupting commerce. The Attorney General is trying to knock your head off. One of the little brothers that are doing the smash and grab just got 89 years. So what they're doing is, a lot of these institutions, and like right now I got a brother calling me from prison, been in there 45 years. He's trying to get through to come on the air. But those dudes are old now, so they have to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So the crime rate was down because we did the Truce in 92 and brought the murder rate down, and crime is down statistically. That's why Los Angeles is able to get the bid for the Olympics that's coming, because in order to get the Olympic Games, you have to have your city's crime rate down to that of something like 1969 or 65. But if I made what my daddy made in 1969, I'd be a happier man today with my children. You see what I'm saying? So when they decrease the crime rate, and then there's an imbalance in the society, what they do is they'll throw the hidden hand out there. It's like, oh, it's a free fall, steal, do what you want to do. But they're not telling you about that senior population of people, the 2-3 million that's in prison in America that they don't need. See, Lil Pookie and them that they bringing in now, they know how to work the computer. And they have not just cocaine withdrawals, but they have electronic withdrawals. You see what I'm saying? Social media withdrawals. So they're gonna bring out all the old heads like me, get out of here, because we don't even know how to send a text. And then they're gonna bring in them youngsters that's Instagram savvy and bring them in there. Because if you do a crime for $100 or $900, that's tops on a suit or a jacket or a purse, something that you steal, guess what? They're gonna do the math and make you do 30 years and make sure you spend $300,000.
Here it is. You know, the state of California was sued by the federal government, violation of people's Eighth Amendment right. Overpopulation creates health and safety hazards inside these institutions. So they have 50,000 people over the bed space. So they had to reform. So they got to release all these old prisoners who've been in there 15 and plus. They have to release them people. And then they, you know, with the problem is that affects, you know, the retirement. It reflects everything that's going on with the balance of power as it relates to the unions of the people that runs it, who then made their livelihood off that. So you're not going to do this, and it's going to affect us, and this money's going to be missing. So what they have to do is create another workforce. So the old workforce, whose people been in there 30 and 40 years, who are old now, who have to, you know, you ain't going to the machine shops like you used to back in the day. The prison's not being ran like it used to.
And they don't need license plate
because those people got older. So
yeah.
they termed out. So what they doing is pretty much is putting out all this inflations and all this crime and making all these people committed because they want a future workforce behind the bars. So a lot of these young guys will be, you know, signing up, and some getting these Buck Roger years, just like they got the Buck Roger years, and they'll be coming out after they then continue to work in those industries that's behind the prison walls, because there's an industry in there too. That labor in that workforce is supporting things that's going on out here. You know what I'm saying? So it's just changing of guards. You know what I'm saying? And most of our young people got to realize that you can get a job out here being free, and you can make $20 an hour or $30 an hour compared to making 30 cents an hour. It's behind those bars.
And not only that, you
guaranteed
get
is change.
Yeah,
it's guaranteed.
And you get like 5 cents an hour in prison, young people. Not to mention the fact that your black ass is the last to get hired in jail and the first to get fired in jail. Brothers is unemployed behind the wall.
And homeless.
And homeless behind the fucking wall. Let me say it again. In these prisons, they got black folks and other folks, not just black, but I'm going to speak for what I know for sure. You the last one to get hired behind the wall, like the streets. And you're the first one to get fired behind the wall, like the streets. And they don't need no more license plate manufacturers because all the new license plates now are digital. So that's one prison industry that has to shut down. Remember, in the prison industrial complex, they refurbish buses, make bulletproof vests, they make uniforms for Caltrans, they grow food. Chino is a farm. That's an industrial complex. When you look at these county jails and you see the cell phone and the phone booth, literally they have a phone in your cell in today's society. But then when you look at the inmates, they eating Doritos, they drinking Pepsis. I'm like,
firefighters behind bars. They fighting fires.
Top ramens, you fighting fires. You know, you got a prison industrial complex is nothing short of saying your ass is a slave.
30 cents.
30 cents
38
a month.
cents.
Because my
38 cents on the dollar.
My pay number was $38 a month. And I felt like I was balling. Like you want to get some real economists? They need to get some of these prison guards and the administration to run the economy. Seriously, I know some dudes in prison right now that take care of their families on the streets, man, with the income that they make in prison. And I ain't talking about from selling drugs, from working. 38 cents a month. I had $38 a month pay number. And half of that went on buying porn books, so I didn't really make no money. I had this one white bitch, her legs was open like this for like 6 years. With some pink stockings on. I must have killed 100 babies, so we can talk about abortion. I don't think nobody did more abortions than me. I've been jacking my dick off. I've been looking at Kamala jacking my dick off. Shit, I done killed 12 babies, bitch. Vote for me, I'm gonna stick with you. But look here, man, I'm gonna tell you the truth, man. So when y'all be talking about these bitches is getting abortions, every time you put a condom on, you kill 1 million babies. And then the other bitch, she want to drink the baby. She do liquid abortions. You know, every bitch I ever had want to drink the baby. Bitch, why you want to drink my offspring? Don't you put this on the air. But they like to drink your offspring, man. I ain't going to say who. But I know one thing, man. That bitch told me it's like spring water. I said, well, bitch, it's summertime. Summertime. Thanks for coming, man. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you,
This
brother.
is a good show.
awesome.
Very informative. And long live abortions. And I wish I'd have pointed
Man, you can go anywhere in the world to get a couple of lies, but you come right here to get the truth. The truth. Tell them that we coming. Just tell them that we coming. Lock it in. Lock the door.
because the game is going to send you a bill.